Hi, Sachin.
Hey, Dinkar.
So, Sachin, I came across this term, Google engineers. These are
Yeah.
not Google employees. So, in order to make it less ambiguous, we'll call search engine engineers, right? And these are not engineers who are building search engines, but these are engineers who are relying on search engine. While go look at Quora, copy snip of code is a good thing when you're stuck, but it cannot be the basis of who you are and your workflow, right? And it does lead to certain scenarios that we'll discuss. And I think one of the things that people focus on is on the search engine engineers, but this problem exists in other functions also, and they kind of are treated as it's okay.
Yeah.
We'll figure out, right? So maybe to get us started, and we wanted this to be the core topic of what we are going to discuss today. So what is a Google engineer? What is a search engine engineer? And what's up with them?
Yeah. So absolutely. The term which I was actually discussing is, I think somebody coined it, is Google programmers, and this refers to a class of people who primarily rely on Googling whenever they are facing a programming problem. And let's try to unpack this term a little bit, because every programmer has used Stack Overflow, Google, Quora, I mean, name it, even GitHub snippets and everything, for accelerating their development, solving their current problem, which is actually being faced. So let's see, when you say it is purely Google programmer versus somebody who is taking help of these modern tools to accelerate their delivery and not getting diluted. So first thing is, I have used Stack Overflow numerous times, more than number of times I can count on my lifetime. But the way I used to always see is, my first principles were solid, and they are solid today as well. So any programmer who is expert at their things, they know what their trade is, and they understand the fundamentals. They using Google to get out of one tricky situation, because as the software ecosystem is getting complex, it is getting impossible to know nitty-gritty details of everything. Plus the number of permutations and combinations of technologies working together. I'll give you a very simple example. Is, I was writing an application, and in that application, uh, at a certain period of time, my Symfony, which was a PHP-based framework, that worker used to get reset. And I tried to debug, do a lot of things. Then I realized that there is this version combination of Linux combined with that PHP and then Symfony. All those things were not working well together, and there was a bug somewhere in that particular Symfony version, which required me to upgrade certain libraries, and then that problem was solved. Knowing such kind of nitty-gritty details of certain problem, it adds up to your experience, that's for sure, but it does not actually increase my instincts or skill or something like that.
Yes.
This is not a reusable skill. This is still a very tactical, once in a
once in an installation.
Once in an
installation, yeah.
Yes. So this doesn't add any value. So it's better to get such instant answers and also contribute. So many times I have contributed such gotchas on the internet where other people were able to get help from as well. So it's helpful.
By the way, Sachin, the most popular page on my blog is I was trying to install something on my Mac OS, and there was a problem. And among all my product management or about my fiction, most popular page is that gotcha. Yeah.
And you are absolutely right, because anytime you are stuck more than 10 minutes on solving a problem, my first reaction is, let's Google it and solve
Hmm.
it. But then I would not try to search how to
Write a
do a
for loop.
fundamental programming task. And that is where my trouble starts, is people who are doing everything using Google. Example is how to send an email in PHP.
Hmm.
Now there will be a snippet of code, they will copy it, paste it there, the email will start going, and they will never refactor it.
Hmm.
Neither they will try to understand how that piece of code
Hmm.
is written, because most of the time people who write those kind of snippets, they are writing to a purpose,
Yeah.
to get one test email
Demonstrate
out.
something or so. Yeah. Yeah.
And then they will struggle with sending an attachment to it,
Hmm.
or let's say, what if the that particular
Configure
call,
the subject.
yeah,
Hmm.
what if that call failed?
Hmm.
How am I going to call that back again? How do I scale this to send, let's say, 1,000 emails per second?
Hmm.
And these type of problems you cannot solve by just Googling. You
Hmm.
need to have certain fundamental understanding about how the queues work, how if you spawn 1,000 threads, what happens in your system.
Hmm.
A little bit more understanding, nuanced way of doing such kind of problems is needed. So my recommendation to anybody is learn the fundamentals first. And I'm not saying anything new. People know this inside out. But these Google programmers who are just hacking their way out day in, day out, how to send an email, how to log one message, how to build a Docker particular command, how to install one Docker container into a server, all these small things, instead of like wasting their time, it's worth to spend few hours. And today the cost of learning has dropped significantly, so it's not very difficult to learn.
So Sachin, I'm wondering, uh, as long as they're getting the job done, why bother? In the sense, other than this individual contributor not being at full optimals, let's say, uh, big deal. Why does it matter? Why should an organization or a VP of engineering care?
The answer relies on what kind of next generation of programmers you are going to hire in your company when you grow.
Hmm.
Somewhere I have read, I don't know, and we used to talk a lot when we used to build company, is um, if you hire an A class programmer, they will always hire either A or below A
Hmm.
programmers. So
Yeah, I understand. Hiring someone smarter than you is a very big, mind shift.
yes.
Hiring smarter people. I mean, naturally you feel threatened. Naturally, you want people joining your team to be something that you can guide, control, and that threat that if I hire someone smarter, they will outsmart me. So, okay, sounds fair. Yeah, yeah, I see where you're going. Please continue. Yeah.
And also it's the same principle. Uh, they talked about even building AI, right?
Hmm.
Human will only build a system which is as smart as themselves.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure that is getting challenged today, because the machine learning. I think some of the AIs are trying to learn themselves random things.
Yeah.
So I do not know. I'm not expert at it, but the fact remains is, if you make too many exceptions while you are recruiting, because you are in a pinch, you need to hire few people immediately, you want these programmers to start taking up tasks immediately, and you make too many compromises and hire B and C level programmers, essentially you risk that they will hire more C minus and D level programmers in your organization, and suddenly you will see that you have a lot of engineering people, but very few who can rise up to the
Really
occasion,
engineer.
really
You'll have a
engineer.
lot of programmers who can copy, but very few people who can engineer a product, who can build something and
And
technology.
how many times we have seen in our at customer places in large enterprises that they say, my developers are not able to release this piece of software in 6 months. I would, so recently I met one customer, and Dinkar, this is one of the uh, biggest startup in the world, and I would not name it. And they were struggling to release one piece of software for 4 months.
Wow. Okay.
Wow. And this is the company which takes pride in releasing a release every hour.
Oh,
What we realized is that they had that one division which actually is releasing on a continuous basis, but there are these auxiliary divisions within the company. They are very important pieces of software, but the teams are so substandard compared to the primary software that they struggle left, right, center in terms of their discipline, quality of code, and everything. So this is
and
an example. Yeah,
yeah, and Sachin, this is actually a very worrisome trend um, that seems to be happening more and more often. Is these non-uniformity in the skills and capability of engineering team across the organization. In earlier days, and and I hope that connotation is going away. If you're a good engineer, you become a developer. Otherwise, you become an QA, right? And suddenly, your QA is full of people who have less experience, less technical skills, and it started reflecting in the quality of the product you're shipping. And then people suddenly realized, and then there was this whole focus on automation. So your QA actually has to be a smarter developer, and the whole nature of the QA department changed. And now QAs are equally awesome developers because they are not testing them, but they're creating, the engineering these are testing scaffoldings. But I think even today, platforms, core engine, these people tend to get staffed by folks who have a lot of skills, whereas perceived like internal tool, and that's one of the subject we should talk about, internal products and all that. They seem to get people who do not have that kind of expertise, right? And I think that leads to the scenario that you're talking about.
absolutely. And what you just highlighted is, as Indians, we have seen in the society, right? You get good marks in 10th standard, you get to go to science,
Oh,
and then you get a little less than that, and you go to commerce, and
yeah,
then you have hopeless marks, then you go to arts.
yeah.
But
We're going to offend so many people today.
but that's how in
That's how
my,
things are. Yeah, yeah.
and it is unfortunate it is laid out like that. The reason is we did not give many opportunities for smart people to earn a lot of good amount of money and also provide successful positions using arts and commerce.
Hmm. Yeah.
Number of CAs who can actually come, who number of students who go to commerce versus number of people who become CA and actually earn the big bucks. There is a huge
Gap.
skew in that proportions. So and I mean, this is evident everywhere, right? If you think about uh, when we were growing up, our parents, they used to tell that around 60s 70s in India, there was a lot of civil work happening.
Hmm.
So civil engineers used to get paid
Yes. Prime.
top
Yeah, yeah,
salary
yeah,
and government jobs.
yeah.
So a lot of people went to civil. In fact, one of my uncle, he could not get civil engineering, so he was like super upset. But
Did he
when
get did he get electronics or computer in? And
no,
now he's happy.
worse, he wanted to get civil, so he actually went the diploma route.
Oh, okay,
He
okay.
could have got another set of engineering
Yeah,
branch, but he
yeah, yeah.
chose to go because there were only two sets of engineers who used to get really good salaries, civil and mechanical.
Mechanical. Yeah,
Then the shift happened to electronics and communications, computer science, and all those stuff, and we went all that route.
yeah.
But essentially, if you think about today, people are saying, I want to do something else.
Yes.
And I think the new education policy which is happening, but we are digressing a lot. The challenge is you should not
Do
create
you
such
think,
kind.
one more digression, do you think we will ever be able to have a course for someone who wants to become a social influencer? Will that become like, what do you want to do when you grow up? I want to be a TikToker.
Newsflash, Dinker, that is already existing today. A number of people who are going for media and
Right.
also this video production, music
Yeah.
production, because of YouTube, right?
Yeah.
Uh, in India, there are like a lot of people who are now earning super awesome salaries by being an influencer, by being a YouTuber. So
See, if the government is coming after you with tax, that means you're making money. That's why they're going through all the effort. Yeah.
absolutely, and that is what is typically where there is money, people actually want to acquire those
Yeah.
skills.
Yeah.
So, to your point, going back, that is absolutely the wrong move on whole IT industry. When we created this hierarchy, that QAs are basically not
Less
so super,
skillful. Yeah.
less
Yeah.
skillful programmers, is a very bad trend. In fact, what they should have done is figured out how to equip them better.
Hmm.
Are there any ways in which you can actually make them better? And that would have been a wiser choice. If nothing else, they should have just mixed everyone together and then eventually grow the standard of everybody. To an extent, it's not possible. Otherwise, then all the D people would have become A people as well, right?
Right.
Um, but that's the fact. So the whole takeaway point which needs to I wanted to highlight was focus on hiring right people in the first go rather than like just catering to your urgencies and desperation of getting somebody in the place and just like winging it and hoping for the best when the real task comes. And the same challenge I have also pet peeve on the other end is many teams, many companies, many enterprises, what they believe is that if they are tech at core company, example is a startup who wants to get a product out in the market
Right.
as soon as possible, their focus is I have a solid tech team, I have a solid problem, and I have a solid solution which my team can create. That's it. That's the winning strategy.
Yes.
I don't need these other functions. Or worse, there is a underlying connotation to all of this is the sales function, the marketing function, the recruitment function. All these functions are,
Founder can do because they're like, meh, and
yeah, they just
let
get
the founder split
right.
his or her time into. Yeah.
Yeah, and the second thing is they also feel these are supportive functions to the
Yeah. Yeah.
core business of tech. And the biggest misconception here is that if you started thinking it like that, then you are not going to have the best people in finance, best people in marketing, best people
Exactly.
in sales, best people in business development. And when you end up with these people, they will actually not be able to give you what you seek, the success. And I have seen some of the companies which were tremendously successful. They did not have the tech platform on day one, which was
Yeah.
really great,
Yeah.
but their marketing was super awesome.
Right.
Their product design was awesome. There was one function which was just incredible.
Right.
And then eventually, when they became successful, they were able to evolve all the functions. So the balance is extremely critical. And most important, the culture of not thinking these are the supportive functions.
Mm.
Think of them as these are equal citizen of my business and my plan. And yeah, today they have a less critical role because of it's just like I need to build this product first, but do not think that the other functions are just supportive,
Right.
because once your product MVP is ready, maybe your marketing needs to take a front seat, your
Yes.
sales needs to
Yes.
take front seat. But if you did not hire the right people for that, it's impossible to succeed in that area. So
Totally agree with you. Yeah. So to summarize, Sachin, you made 2 points, right? The first one that you're saying is that while we started with Google programmers, right? The idea is hire people who have the right skills and strengths, and second, hire them across all the functions. Right? These are the two
Yeah.
important thought processes that the hiring team, the management, and the founder of a startup should have in mind.
And let's take example of Google itself, right? Recently, I was chatting with one of my friend who has worked for Google in the past, and they were talking about, hey, Google is an awesome engineering company,
Mhm.
and I was telling them I have heard from many of my friends who have worked at Google. Google is an awesome engineering company, but I always wondered why their products don't work cohesively with each
Mhm.
other. I mean, there is plenty of example. They were never able to launch a social network
Mhm.
to compete with Facebook in a reasonable margin. And by the way, at one point of time, uh, uh, the Google Plus, which they
Yeah.
created, which was third or fourth incarnation of their social network thing, right? It had like 400 million users.
Mhm.
Tell me a company which actually had like 400 million users who log in once in a month will think that product is failing.
Yeah.
They were not able to take off. The reason is the integration, the experience, all that
Mhm.
thing combined together. All thing was very complex. They called it
Yes.
circles, and then
Yeah.
it was all metaphorical. It was so futuristic. It was so good. I don't know, man. Many times I just wonder whether Google actually allows the design across teams by one person or not, or one team. Because Google Mail experience on iPhone versus Google Mail experience on Android versus Google Mail experience on web, all things have different sets of features in them.
Mhm. They're made by three different disconnected set of folks.
Right. And they have these minimum functions which are like, okay, I have
Send mail.
mail everywhere, but many things lack. For example, until recently, and that's why I don't use Google Mail client on my phone, despite I desire to use, is it does not have task integration,
Mhm.
which they have on web. But even if you now on web, you created a task that didn't used to come on to phone, it used
It's
to
because
appear in a different
the
app.
two different product managers have their own priority and their own backlog. And
And there is a Google
for the
Task app
phone
by
one
the way.
is like task is somewhere. Yeah, we'll figure out. Yeah.
And that's my fundamental problem. Is if
You feel that's happening because they don't have they're thinking that design and product thinking product management are peripheral and engineering is the core.
yeah,
That's
that's
what
what
you
I heard.
suspect. Yeah.
No, I mean, like, that's what I heard. They said
Okay.
that they have this engineering management culture.
Yeah.
All their managers are engineering engineers.
Hmm.
I know whenever I used to run my own business, I used to have all my instincts towards solving the problem.
Yeah.
I mean, I never thought the solution to a problem could be, let's say, a how to document.
Hmm.
I always used to think this is a problem. How can we solve this using technology?
Solution to a coding problem is more code.
And there is a joke, right, about that is on a lighter note. So, Perl is a scripting
Yeah.
language. We used to be very difficult, right? Regular expressions and everything. So, a programmer says that I had 100 problems. And to solve these 100 problems, I chose to use the Perl language. Now I have 101 problems. I mean, the solutions to all the problems cannot be more code. But that is what is seems to be happening at Google in my mind.
Hmm.
Is since everything is about engineers, programmers, the rest of the functions are not primary.
And
Uh,
let's say allegedly, so that Google doesn't come after us. We believe it looks like
Yeah.
but we
But
don't
the
know.
problem is real, right? I mean, as a
Yeah,
Google
the
user,
problem is, yeah, as a user, we have a right to complain. The problem is very stark. Yeah.
exactly. And
And not Tony
contrast.
Stark, but
Yes,
the other
absolutely.
Stark. Yeah.
And the contrast to that is Apple. I'll give
Mhm.
you a very solid example of this. When Apple released Focus Mode, the Focus Mode was launched on iPad,
Yes.
iOS, and their Mac operating system.
Yes.
And it
And
worked
you could try, and it kind of gave you a across the device experience.
exactly. The moment you switch on Focus Mode as work, it switches on across all devices.
Yeah.
And the same experience, same terminology, same
Same
icon set,
terminology.
same
Yes.
visual, and exact same behavior.
So you're saying that there they did not treat design and product as supporting functions to engineering, but engineering, design, product had equal citizenship, equal seat at the table when these were being designed.
And look at it, right? I mean, I would not believe that they don't have minimum three sets of teams. For iPad, there is a team. iPhone, there is a team, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Mac OS, there would be a different team,
yeah,
and if not more.
yeah, of course. Yeah,
But the coordination
yeah,
of, hey, we are releasing a feature called Focus Mode across all Apple devices. The same thing happened to notifications. Same thing happened to their another feature which reminds me. By the way, Maps is across exactly same features,
yeah,
and whether it is good or bad.
yeah.
Uh,
It's
so,
it's bad across all devices.
but it is
And
consistently bad everywhere.
consistently, but maybe if any Apple product manager is watching and wants to join in a podcast and share with us some good practices if they're allowed to, please reach out. We would love to hear from you. Yeah.
Absolutely, and that's something which I always admired is if you have one set of features on Apple, it is across the board, it is consistent. With Android, that is never the case. First of all, even and let's not talk about other because Android also is customized by everybody. But to build this culture, you cannot be skewed towards one skill.
Right.
You cannot say my programmers are the prima donnas of my organization.
Right.
You need to say that the programmers have a function, extremely important function to play in my organization. Similar to that, I have, let's say, human resource, finance,
Yeah.
marketing, sales, product engineering, product design, hardware manufacturing. All those things have to be having equal seat at the table.
Right.
And one voice cannot have a veto power over the other.
Right.
So that's something which I have realized is something you cannot compromise as an organization.
Yeah. So thanks Sachin for bringing this up. It's a very interesting topic. Probably the shortest one we have discussed in a while. I hope uh, uh, I want to talk in future about these internal products. Some people call them assets. So this was a great discussion. Thanks and see you
Thank
in the
you.
next one. Bye bye.
Bye bye.